This video has been requested by Patrice Steckner. You can make a request too. Just drop a comment below and let us know what kind of video you'd like us to cover. We're keeping it broad, so feel free to get creative as long as it's about women in the arts. Patrice Steckner has asked us to talk about Anna Mendieta. To be completely honest, when I first saw Anna's work, I found it a bit strange. But as I spent more time with it, my perspective shifted, and I began to see things differently. A transformation, if you like. And I reckon you might experience something similar, because Anna was an artistic powerhouse who really changed the way we think about art. Anna was a fascinating artist, but before we get started, we want to give a quick heads up. In this video, we'll touch on difficult subjects like assault and death, so please be mindful of that. Anna's death is still something the art world doesn't really like to discuss. Many believe she was murdered by her husband, a well-known minimalist sculptor, and her death remains a highly controversial subject. We'll get into that a bit later, but first, let's see if you too might experience a change in how you view Anna's art, just as we did. Provocative and experimental. These are two words that comes to mind when talking about Anna. We'll try to explain Anna's work in a simple way, sharing our interpretation. You might see things differently, and if you do, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Earlier we talked about transformation and change. That was a central theme for Anna because everything is constantly changing. You're not the same person you were yesterday. The tree outside isn't the same as it was the day before. So how do you capture this constant flux in yourself, in humanity, and in nature? Imagine standing in front of a blank canvas, ready to paint change. How would you do it? I'm not the most creative person, but I'd probably try doing 3 paintings, before, during and after, rather boringly. Anna, however, found the canvas too limiting when it came to expressing transformation. She fell in love with using photography and filming, especially with her Super 8 camera. These cameras were really popular for amateur filmmaking and home movies in the 60s and 70s, as they were relatively easy to use and affordable compared to professional film gear. Here's a short clip of Raquel Cecilia Mendieta, Anna's niece, who is overseeing the digital mastering of her complete works from a seminar at the NSU Art Museum in Fort Lauderdale.
And this brings us back to her work. Anna discovered art in high school. Her sister, Raquel, was studying painting as their father had also studied art in Havana, having wanted to be an artist, but was eventually pushed into law by his father. Anna's high school teachers told her that she wasn't very good. She had no talent, but she said she didn't care, she was going to do it anyway. Later, she would tell people her career choices were either artist or criminal, always going for the dramatic. Anna was a painting major, but because it was the 70s and the University of Iowa was the hub of the American art scene at the time, thanks to the intermedia department founded by Hans Brader, Anna slowly moved away from painting and towards more experimental forms of expression. And this is when she picked up a Super 8 camera to film a performance. And the rest, as they say, is history.
With film and photography, Anna found she could more easily capture transformations and the rawness she was seeking. She explained,
"The turning point in my art was in 1972, when I realized that my paintings were not real enough for what I wanted the image to convey. By real, I mean I wanted my images to have power, to be magic."
Anna wasn't interested in the medium itself, though. As she said,
"I'm not interested in the formal qualities of my materials, but their emotional and sensual ones."
She used her own body and nature to connect with the world and the earth. And when you use your own body to connect with everything around you, it becomes deeply personal.
The viewer of my work may or may not have had the same experience as me, but perhaps it will lead to their own idea, their own version of what they think I might have experienced. Their minds can be convinced that the images I present contain some of the quality of the actual experience.
Anna's art is raw, real, and at times disturbing for the viewer. She used the 4 classical elements, earth, water, fire, and air, to explore themes like feminism, violence, life, death, identity, and belonging. Longing and belonging were significant themes for Ana, who fled Cuba due to the revolution when she was just 12 years old. Here's Ana's niece Raquel again, sharing more about Ana and her sister's escape from Cuba.
Ana, who was called Ana Maria by her parents, Ani by her sister and brother, and later Tropicana by friends, was born on November 18, 1948 in Havana, Cuba. She had an older sister, Raquelin, who later became my mother, but who first became like a mother to her sister Ana when the girls left Cuba together without their parents via Operation Peter Pan. The two girls were born into a prominent family where politics and religion were regarded as equally important. In fact, Ana's great-uncle Carlos Mendieta was president of Cuba in 1934, a fact she would sometimes bend for dramatic purposes when she was older, telling people it was actually her grandfather. Ana's father, Ignacio Mendieta, was a lawyer who worked for the Secretary of State. Her mother, Raquel, and now you can see how this family name of Raquel starts to get a little bit confusing, was a doctor of chemistry and physics and taught at the Instituto de Vedado. When Ignacio was asked to join the Communist Party, he resigned from his position and started working against the revolution and was a correspondent for the CIA. At around this time in 1961, families were starting to send their children out of the country to the United States. Now, this was nothing new for Cubans who had done this in previous generations when Machado was in power. My own grandfather had been sent to Miami when he was a teen until it was safe for him to return. So, on September 11th, 1961, Ana and her sister Raquelin took a plane to Miami filled with children of all ages to the safety of the free world. Now, to give you an idea of Ana's personality as a child, she was 12 going on 13 when she landed in Miami. When they exited the plane, Ana dropped to her knees and kissed the tarmac and said, "Freedom! Freedom at last!" Ana was a born performer. She was a prankster, and for lack of a better word, a wise ass. The sister spent a short time in Miami, a place where their father did not want them to stay because he felt Miami was too close to Cuba, and he feared his work against the revolution could reach them even on free soil. So the girls were sent to a random charity across the country, and it couldn't have been more random. They were sent to Iowa, to a Catholic orphanage, which was more of a reform school for wayward teens. But aside from these feelings of having been torn from the motherland, as Ana later said, or feeling like she didn't quite belong, she had what looked like, on the outside, to be a normal American teen experience in Iowa. Because what could be more American than to be someone from another country who wants not only to fit in, but to succeed?
Ana's experience of being uprooted from her homeland had a lasting impact on her art. Here, Ana herself.
Yo trabajo con la tierra, con la naturaleza, y hago esculturas en el paisaje, en el ambiente afuera, ¿no? Y yo creo que tiene mucho que ver con Cuba en el sentido de que a mí me ha atraído la naturaleza porque como no tenía tierra, como no tenía patria.
In her Silhouette series, Ana created female silhouettes in nature, using mud, sand, grass, and materials like leaves, twigs, and even blood. She would make body prints or paint her outline on walls, aiming to express her connection to the earth and embody a ritual process. As Ana herself put it,
I have been carrying out a dialogue between the landscape and the female body based on my own silhouette. I believe this has been a direct result of being torn from my homeland, Cuba, during my adolescence. I am overwhelmed by the feeling of having been cast from the womb, which is nature. My art is the way I re-establish the bonds that unite me to the universe. In 1973, I did my first piece in an Aztec tomb that was covered in weeds and grasses. That growth reminded me of time. I bought flowers at the market, lay on the tomb, and was covered with white flowers. The analogy was that I was covered by time and history.
Ana also explored deeply uncomfortable themes. One of her pieces was a response to the brutal assault and murder of a fellow student, Sarah Ann Ottens, on the University of Iowa campus. Anna, like many women on campus, felt both fear and anger at the lack of concern shown by the authorities. In 1973, Anna performed a piece where she recreated the violence in her own apartment. She invited friends and students to witness her half-naked, covered in blood, and tied to a table. After the initial shock, people sat down and began to discuss what they'd seen. Anna said the performance had a profound effect on those who were there. It forced people to confront the real crime that had happened. Anna once said,
"My art comes out of rage and displacement. Although the image may not be a very rageful one, I think all art comes out of sublimated rage."
The murder of Sarah Ann Ottens remains unsolved to this day. Sadly, the same can be said of Anna's death. During this part of the video, we will not be showing any images out of respect. In 1985, Anna was only 36 when she fell from her New York apartment's 34th floor. We don't know exactly what happened, but there are some key details. On the night of her death, Anna had called a friend, telling her that she planned to divorce her husband and had evidence of his infidelity. A doorman outside the building later reported hearing a woman shouting, "No," several times, followed by a loud thud. Anna's husband claimed they'd had an argument, but his story kept changing. Despite this and other troubling evidence, including scratches on his face the day after Anna's death, he was acquitted of second-degree murder. Many believe that Anna's death was swept under the rug, as her husband was a well-connected figure in the art world. Those who stood up for Anna were mainly artists of colour, feminists and activists, while her husband's supporters were mostly wealthy, white gallery owners and curators. You might notice we haven't mentioned her husband's name. That's because we want the focus to remain on Anna, not him. It's clear Anna didn't want to die, especially not in that way. Her husband died in 2024, and we'll likely never know what really happened. The feminist group Guerrilla Girls protested Anna's death and her husband's acquittal, comparing the case to that of O.J. Simpson, but their efforts made little impact. Anna's death, much like her art, continues to raise uncomfortable questions. If you'd like to learn more about the Guerrilla Girls, there's a link in the description box and the end of the video. If you ever sit under a tree, feel the wind, or lie on the grass, perhaps you can connect with Anna, yourself, the earth and the universe in the way she did. Anna said,
"Art is a question of vocation. I don't have a choice. I can only make what I make."
When you enter that creative flow, you set yourself free and simply allow the process to unfold. That's exactly what Anna did. And it's magnificent. A big thank you to Patris Steckner, who asked for this video, for bringing us along on this journey with Anna. It's been challenging, reflective, and most of all, transformative. If you have a request for a video about women in the arts, feel free to let us know in the comments. And if you're new to Mikono Art, we focus on women's art, past, present, and from all around the world. By liking, subscribing, and commenting, you're supporting our mission to highlight women artists and bring their stories to light. Even a simple emoji in the comments helps. Until next time, keep exploring the wonders of the artistic world.